Welcome to Janine's Energy Shift Toolkit reading. If you're a Tier 3 Patreon member, you can get these readings every month if you'd like, and then also you can get these on their own if you'd like as well. Message me if you'd like to know more about them. So when I connected with Janine's energy, she basically is connected to what's happening at the moment. So when we do these readings, sometimes it can be a personal shift, or it could be very related to what's happening in the season. And seasons are not, seasons are just like a stepping stone, like the 4 seasons we have. We have all kinds of things going on. They're a little bit closer to the astrological signs, but even that is limiting. So it's just to give you an idea, like each time we think of all these human structures to measure stuff, we're getting close, but we're not even as close. So, and also it changes all the time. About 4 years ago, I was going to write a book and do a series on each of the seasons. And then as I learned more, I realized how different it is and how people are having shifts. So that's why all these systems that we do have, eventually we outgrow them, like astrology and things like that. So like I said, there's stepping stones to understand bigger things, but eventually we outgrow them. And they're still fun, but you know. So anyway, right now at the moment, there is a big shift happening that usually it has to do with the collective. I talk about the internal reality, internal external reality, and the external reality. And those are depending on what humans do. In this case, it's not about our simulation that we're in. This is about all energies and where they are on the line. Like if you think of a little like family tree. So the way I see things is basically little stories or myths like this of very important things that give you ideas of who you are, like all the pieces, and it's not linear. And then they're all connected by your energy. And so if you have a story or a myth with another energy, like when you learn about yourself and you have a vision or a memory, you can go deeper into that memory, but also you can see that because your energy kind of like threads it through, you become basically like that's part of the story. So whoever's in that story energetically is very connected to you, blah, blah, blah. And then when you start finding out about the transformations of your energy personally, because you've learned all these stories, sometimes you can see them as your energetic children. Sometimes you can see them as, this is just an example because there's all kinds of things going on, and it depends on each energy. And sometimes you can see them as another version of you, like you needed to transform to become this, but doesn't mean that that one goes away, that they both exist. So it's kind of like that. So anyway, right now, the biggest line, so there's the ones that are known in history, not history, sorry, myths of Greek myths. People know about chaos, they know about void, abyss, and also they know about light, right? And so they say that different names for some of them, but they exist in everything, right? They have like different things going on, and their storylines are going to be different as well. So like Mars, for example, would be a storyline, evolutionary storyline of I almost said Venus because it has to do with that, of his a void. So that would be like, so here would be void, and then there would be like a line of energy, right? And then there's another story here. So story, and then little lines going around it. So light right now is having an awakening, and the awakening is basically like so much things, right? Like a lot, the light spiral, right? And the awakening is that this distortions that were happening, not just here, how we're affected by it, but also on all the lineage of that. And so almost everyone's a part of that lineage. There's other things going on, but in creation, they're all from there, kind of, right? So everything is, we've been hearing these things about like a lot of having to do with ash and burning and things like this. When I was in Poland this past week, I went to Krakow, and basically I was seeing like these little dragony little beings that look like axolotls, but at the same time, my friend Ruby showed me this little poster that talked about the how to train your dragon, and they're like a little bit black, and they were they were like bats, they were kind of like little dragons, and they were just doing this. And I was like, what is going on? And then everything I kept seeing, while I was looking everywhere, I could see another version as it being burnt. And so it's kind of this stuff that happens when we our systems as humans that were built on that like kind of what we've gone through have been built on that go 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 mentality, and we have to do this and we have to do that. But anyway, so that's going on like everywhere, right? That is what's happening. So it's changing the season. So even though there's this thing that's happening with the energies that came first, I guess in quotes first, or decided to create the learning teaching dimension that we're in, which is the matrix. And the way that they came through was islands. So not came through, but there were all these islands, and they would come through. So it was very watery, like to begin with, and then there's all these things, and there's a whole story about it. But we're getting to Janine's now, so we needed to catch everything up. So Janine, in this sense, is obviously affected by that light one, and some people, the way that their branches are of like being a human, there's so many places that their energy had to go through and like experiences to get from that storyline, if that makes sense, of what that big thing that's happening. And so it's still going to affect everybody, but it's not going to affect them as much as the direct ones. So ones that don't have like a lot of stuff to go through. So I'd say people who are not as direct as Janine is, they're going to be maybe confused and stuff about what's going on, and like feel a bit empty or weird and things like that. But it can be both, but like, you know what I mean? And so the reason why I'm focusing on Polynesia, I'm going to show you really quick. So you can see here's Polynesia, and this is Micronesia, and this is Melanesia kind of. So, but we're focusing on Polynesia. So my area of my energy has a different map of where it came through. And by the way, for people who don't know what's going on, I would recommend listening to my podcast. At the last episode, I kind of talk about this, and then Patreon, I continue some more stuff. And also I'm happy to talk about in this session. But anyway, this basically is where Janine's energy came through, and she is kind of, at the moment, they're showing me that she is connecting with Polynesia so much. And when I do these readings, it's always important to think about, the reason why I even talk about it is because if we don't know what's going on and we just feel it, we don't get to have the opportunity to do it. So the tool that I've chosen for Janine, and people can follow along, is to do remote viewing. So Janine, I think that this is something you can work on. If you need help, we can always do it in a session, but I would have a look at these. These are moments that they've chosen that you can jump into to do some remote viewing. So they said to look at each of these, and when you got a specific feeling, also I always give you the link to the Pinterest folder that has all of the other ones. There's more than this. So all of these there's a lot of relationships happening, and they say to first focus on humans and what humans have gone through in those islands, and then keep going back. So then you go to the indigenous, like, that are just arriving there, and then back, and then back, and then back. So they said to start there and then keep going back, because you're going from human to bigger energy. And so, yes, so you get to be the one that gets to take the seeds first, which I know you like, Janine. So yeah, have a look at that. And all of them are about the relationships. between flowers, between people, between plants. There's like so many I can see that want to connect with